if there was one rule of football that you could change, what would it be?
I've got a few at the moment, to be honest. I think there's some challenges around ball and play time at the moment that I'm feeling that I'd quite like to change. I think, the amount of set pieces, long throws that are getting set up, I think at the moment we're 45 minutes ball and play time in the Championship. It's just is not enough. So, whether it's some sort of stop clock or a limitation on how long you can take to set up throw-in, something like that, I think I enjoy as a coach, manager, spectator, seeing ball and play as much as possible and the match being played. So something that could effectively limit the amount of time the ball's being off, and particularly at the moment the long throws are being set up.
Yeah, because fans get short-changed as well, don't they? Because they come to watch a game of football when the ball's barely in play. They tried it, didn't they, with the World Cup a few years ago when there was like games that were going 15, 16, 17 minutes injury time. People didn't like that either. No,
it's tough, and they have tried some different things over the years. I think 2 years ago, there was a big push on the added time. At the moment, it's going down, it's trending down, and they've tried to get it the other way, but it's trending down in I think all levels of football, but certainly our games have had a massive drop off in terms of ball and play time. So I'm sure they're looking at it, and if there was a rule change that I would wish for, I think if the current direction of travel continues, I think there may well have to be something in that, guys.
But this is your fourth full season in football management, hopefully. You've had massive ups with the 2 promotions, obviously the relegation.
Yeah.
What did you learn? The last time I spoke to you, you were en route to your second promotion. What did you learn last season in the Premier League?
So many things, to be honest. And, you do learn. You learn every season. You learn every week in the job if your mind is open. And I don't think that's an age thing. I think that's just the way it is. Football will always teach you things. Of course, last year was a completely different context for us as a club, completely different context for me as a manager, going into a league where you're by far the underdog and expected to be somewhere near the bottom of the table, and you have the smallest budget and all these things. So that's a different perspective for me to what I've had the last few years as a manager, certainly in my time at Man United as well. So there's lots of things that I've learned and took from that, things about your recruitment, things about the matches, seeing it from that perspective compared to being the team who are on the front foot more. So I can't say that there's football lessons loads different than what you learn every other year. You're learning all the time, but I think going through that sort of challenge, I think it's rounded me even more, and I've taken a lot of things from it, to be honest.
Well, I was speaking to Rob Edwards the other week. Of course he took Luton up, and they had a difficult season as well. But he said on a tactical front, nothing really surprised him on that score. It was just the sheer quality. What's your sort of view on that from your point of view?
Probably very similar, to be honest. I didn't think last year it was there was too many games where we had huge problems from that respect. I think we were able to compete most weeks for most of the season. It was only really the last bit of the season that we, with probably a big injury list as well, and when your relegation's confirmed, that we probably ran out of steam. But until that point, I feel like on that level we were able to compete really well most weeks. We were able to be in most games. We were able to oppose our style for bits of the game every week, but the quality and the physicality in the end can often pay out, and I think we lost so many games late on that we'd been in a fantastic position for. So I think the physicality of the Premier League now, the individual quality of the players that comes with the fact that it's by far now the richest league in the world, and every team that established there, the squads get stronger and stronger every year, means that, to be honest, we felt like those were the biggest decisive factors. And of course, as a manager, you always need to look at every aspect and everything that you can improve and do differently. But the physical and individual qualities of the players is really, really decisive at that level, and that's something that we need to really work towards as a club. Yeah,
and of course we all love the Premier League, fantastic division. But it's a fact, isn't it, that 3 have gone up, 3 have gone down for a couple of seasons in a row now. So that really does cause a massive challenge for you guys in the Championship, trying to build for the Premier League in future seasons. Yeah,
I think, look, there was definitely a trend there. I think these things don't tend to last forever. So, hopefully some of the teams this year will be able to bridge the gap, and we're fighting to try and get there again and try and bridge that gap. So, I think it's, you have to deal with the first challenge ahead of you, which for us is the Championship, and it's one of the most competitive divisions in world football. The gap between the teams at the top, the bottom is smaller than almost any other division. Every weekend, it's so hard to pick the results. So, the challenge of trying to compete and excel and hopefully be successful in this division is where 99% of our thoughts probably are. But of course, as a club, the ultimate destination where you want to get towards, and you need to keep working to put things in place that can help you be successful there. That's not just on the pitch but off the pitch, and we need to keep building all those things. The first time we took our journey to the Premier League, it happened so quickly that there were certain things that were impossible to have in place that would have really helped us. Now as the journey continues, we have more time. As you hear today, you can see a new training ground being built, staff, numbers and depth and quality and experience is probably higher in the building than it's ever been, and in every area we're trying to just keep improving the football club and make sure that if hopefully we can be successful on the pitch again this season or in the very near future, that we'll be in a much stronger position going into the Premier League, because we know that jump is huge. We know that for us it was probably bigger than almost anyone, and it was in the end too big to be successful there. But we also believe with a lot of the work that's going on that if we can be successful in this division again, that the gap won't be quite so big next time. But yeah, again, the first priority is dealing with what's ahead of us, and that's a really tough season.
Yeah, I saw in the local media you were quoted about there's been a lot of talk, hasn't there, from other managers about the amount of money that Ipswich are spending, and you made the point that actually you didn't spend a lot of money the first time round, and there's lots of other examples of teams that haven't spent a lot. In terms of, so that's in terms of the Championship, but is that actually possible in the Premier League?
To not spend so much and be successful?
I mean Luton, for example, went up, and actually they were competitive, I thought.
Yeah, they were. I think it's more difficult, that's the truth. I think in the Championship, I've said it, and as not saying it, me as now as one of the teams with a better budget, and we have a really good squad because we've been successful in the Championship before. I think the depth of quality in the Championship is really good, and you can sign really good players as free agents who can do well in the level. You can sign really good players on loan who can do well. You can sign players from different leagues that the adaptation to the Championship is possible, where the fees maybe aren't as high as British players. There's lots of ways that you can build a really competitive squad, and I think almost every club does, or you won't compete in this division. In the Premier League it is tougher, of course. The closer you get to the top of that pyramid, the number of players is much smaller. The players at that level demand fees and wages that are on a completely different level. So I won't say it's impossible, or I think we all might as well give up, but I think to compete in the Premier League now, the financial gap is really big, and we came from a really low baseline last year, but the club tried to be ambitious and make investment. But I think the level now to really compete in the Premier League is really high, and it's it is generally going to take a massive investment to bridge that gap very often. So that's the challenge, and that's the perspective that clubs I think are increasingly going to take. And I think everyone, you look at the business that a couple of the newly promoted teams done this year, and I think it's pretty apparent that everyone sees that the gap is really big, and of course you need to do a lot of things well. It certainly isn't just money or signings that will bridge that gap, but it's going to be a big part of us successfully trying to put that puzzle together.
Now, the recruitment this summer has been another busy one, hasn't it? What has been the thinking behind the players that you've brought in? And also, just a word about the start of the season. Of course, when you have a turnover, it takes a little while to get everyone up to speed. Yeah,
it was a busy summer, busier probably than what we'd planned in many aspects, and a really challenging summer, of course. There's a lot of different situations over the summer. You have, likes of Liam, who, we knew was going to end up moving on, who left early, or an Omari, maybe a little bit different, but who we were hoping would end up staying at the club, but sort of goes on through the summer. So you deal with challenges like that, which are, maybe a little bit more commonplace for teams that get relegated, but also in some ways really good things for the club, because, that's two young players that we invested in last year and now have sold for by far club record fees. Then, of course, we lost some big players who've been part of, the promotions here and, had opportunities or wanted to move on for different reasons. So there's been more exits than probably what we would have wanted in terms of the continuity, but we have to deal with those challenges, and we've worked really hard over the summer to build the strongest squad that we possibly could, and that's a balance of different types of signings, really. We lost some real experience, so it was important we brought experience into the group. Ashley Young's a great example of that. Someone who comes in is more experienced than almost anyone in English football in terms of places he's been, trophies that he's won. So that's a fantastic addition. Experienced players who we know and believe can do well in the Championship, the likes of a Darnell Furlong. We brought in some loan players who I think are really good signings for the club, the likes of Cedric Kipper, Jens Kajus, Chuba Akpom, people who know the division, or in Jens's case know the club, and experienced players of a good age that if we get promoted can stay with us, but you're not as a club making huge long-term financial commitments in those situations. So I think good signings for us, and of course we've also tried to keep building on our model of recruiting young talented players that we want to develop for the future of the club, but can also be assets for the club in the future. So Casey's a player who we feel has lots of development in him, and will improve over his time here, and can be a good player for the club. And of course Sindre as well, a really, really young player that we have high hopes for, but also realistic expectations in terms of his adjustment, but someone that we feel has a real bright future, and we're able to bring him to the club and work with him now over a longer period and develop him. So it's been a real busy summer, a real balance of everything, trying to replace some of the experience, trying to build a squad that can be competitive in the Championship, trying to invest in some asset players that we can develop but can also help us this year, and that's kind of the model that we've tried to use over the last few years anyway, and we've tried to continue that this year. It happens later than what you want typically, and I would love to have the group today. I'd love to have them. I'd like to in some ways rewind the clock to the 1st of July and have a pre-season with them, but it often doesn't pan out that way. It certainly hasn't panned out for us that way in the last couple of years. So we know post the window shutting in the international break, that was really sort of almost felt like day one for the group, and we're having to work a lot with them while also trying to win matches, and that's difficult, but that's what we're trying to do, and we've made some pretty good steps on that.
I must ask you about Jadon. Cracking start to the season. When I interviewed him last time, he was at Hull actually, and I remember him telling me his ambition was to win the Ballon d'Or. A very bold statement, but I like that. That. But I mean, obviously a player with so much potential. Is the challenge now for him really just to have a full season scoring goals at this sort of level and develop into a Premier League player, which he's clearly got the talent to do?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. It's not just about the goals, but I think he's a really talented young player. He's had lots of experiences in his young career. He's had this the fourth team that he's played in the Championship for. Of course, he's had his experience as a young player at Villa, then going back to Villa last year, played in the Champions League, played for Ipswich, a team at the bottom of the Premier League, and everything that entails. And he's had a lot of experiences. But he's coming into a good age now. I think he's 23. He's been through a lot of experiences. We feel that he's at a really good club now for developing players. He's in a really good league, to be honest, for forwards to develop. We speak about this with a lot of the players at the club and players who we're trying to bring to the club. I think the Championship, you look at, players, forward players especially now playing in the Premier League. You look at forward players playing in top leagues in Europe. There's so many of them have developed through the Championship. I think when we looked at it over the summer, maybe 75% of the England squad over the summer had played in the Championship. And I think in particular for forward players, it's a fantastic division because there's so many games. The games are so competitive. There tends to be lots of action in the games. And I think it's a really good place for him to be. I think he's at the right club. We're really enjoying work with him. He's hungry to get better. His teammates are supporting him well. He's working hard for the team. And hopefully now he can continue, as you said, to do that right the way through the season, to just keep working on every aspect of his game, keep working on his body and his mind and every aspect that makes a top player. He's got some great tools to do so. He's working really hard, and if he continues in the same way, then we think he's going to have a really good season and a really important season in terms of his development towards his potential, which we think is of being a really, really good Premier League player.
I mean, the Premier League, of course, there's a shrinking pool of English players now because, of course, it's the best league in the world, so you've got the best of everywhere. But that's quite exciting for the Championship, isn't it? Because it means that we can develop our talent in the Championship, and we're going to see better quality players in the Championship because of that.
Yeah, I think so. I think the quality, in the Championship now, even not to compare it to the Premier League, because the Premier League has, in my opinion, left every other league in the world behind in terms of quality. But I think the gap now from the Championship to the other top leagues in Europe is getting tighter and tighter, and of course, the quality filters down and the finances filter down, and you see not just ourselves signing good players from Ligue 1 this year, but you see players from Dutch League, from the Bundesliga, Portuguese League, French League arriving at different teams in the Championship, and as well as, of course, the opportunities for top young English talent to develop themselves there, and I think the strength of the league is super, and it's only going to go from strength to strength as the Premier League gets stronger. So it makes for hopefully a good product. It makes for a good environment for staff, coaches, managers to keep developing themselves, and certainly for players as well. So we know how tough the league is. I think we'd prefer it wasn't so tough this year, but we know how tough it is, how competitive everyone is, and it's an exciting one to be part of.
And Kieran, you mentioned Ashley Young earlier. I mean, he's 40 now. I mean, how the hell does he keep himself in shape is the first thing. And how is he helping? What's already, has he had an impact around the place?
Yeah, he's. I think he said publicly, and he would say, I think it's fantastic genes. That is the first thing that he's very thankful for. Of course, he looks after himself well, and he does the extra bits that you need to do to look after yourself. But I think he's also, had really good genetics and good luck with his injuries, and he's really light, and he keeps his weight down, which I think helps. So he's in a great condition physically, certainly, for the age that he is. And he's brought loads to the building from the first day, to be honest. I was really optimistic with what it would be, but that's from my experience having worked with him, speaking to the people at Everton. They spoke so highly about how he was as a trainer day to day in their building, and from the first day he's an outstanding trainer. He trains 100% every day. He voices and pushes and leads other people. He wants to win every day. He still wants to get better. He still wants to learn. So he brings so much to that competitive environment. He's still young at heart, so he's someone who's got the capability of mixing with the senior players, but he can also have a laugh and a joke with the 18 and 19-year-olds in the dressing room. He brings a lot of experience that can help the staff, but he's also, not to come away from it, he's also still a very good player. He's played really well in his minutes this year. He shows his qualities every day in training, and I'm sure he's going to play some really important matches for us before the end of the season and over the next few months. So we're really happy to have him here. He's been everything that we would have hoped for, and I think if we're going to be successful this season, he's going to have a really big part to play in it.
Now, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, your old mate, has he got a town season ticket? He seems to be at a lot of games nowadays.
Yeah. No, thankfully he'll never need to get a season ticket as long as I'm manager here. It's been great to have him here for the last few weeks. Of course, he's supported us over the last few years, and he's been at a couple of games over the seasons that we've had. But he's coming out of work now himself and having had a busy year in Turkey. So he's back in England, and is really keen to get out and keep watching football, and he's always followed our group and our team. So he has a special sort of affinity for watching us, which is really, really nice. And it's always great to catch up with him. I don't think we've ever lost a game he's came to watch us in. So when he tells us he's coming, I'm always happy to hear that. And he's a good friend, so it's always nice to see him.
Can I ask you, what's your favourite memory working with him? Because obviously you worked with him for a little while. What was the most pleasing thing in terms of working with him?
Oh, we had some amazing successes and wins. So favourite memory, we had some brilliant ones, but probably PSG I think will go down as a pretty special win in the history even of that club. So that was a great occasion. Probably broader speaking, greatest memory of working from him is just how level he managed to stay with his staff. There's not many bigger pressure cookers than that club, and being a manager of that club, and especially when you're you're so front facing as he is, and a big name and person in the history of the club. And whether we were on really good runs or not so good runs, or win or not win on a weekend, he was just really consistent in terms of how he came in, treated staff, always kept a positive attitude, always supported the players and his staff, and that's something that I took a lot from and try and sort of stick to myself in the difficult moments in the job, or even in the good moments, to stay level. So yeah, I think as a manager, it was just that consistency of his mood and his attitude and his communication around the place that was I think was a massive strength.
And finally, Kieran, Marcelino Nunez, and he's already a fan's hero. I've never known anything like that, really. But what's he been like since he's signed?
Yeah, it's been good. It's been good to have him. So we needed to add to the midfield department. We lost a couple over the summer, and really important ones for us. So we wanted to sign a midfielder with championship experience, who knew the division, who could play, in the double pivot as number 6 or as an 8 or even possibly higher up. So he sort of fits all those categories. And as I've said, to be honest, apart from that, the fact that he was at, a local rival wasn't a big incentive in trying to sign him. Of course, it makes the signing a little bit harder. It was more the player that he is, and a really good character, a positive person who we thought could add to the group. So he's been a good addition. He arrived with an ankle injury, so he missed the first couple of weeks. So it took a little bit of time getting up to speed. And he started to impact it now on the pitch with some good cameos and impacts off the bench. Did well in his first game at Bristol City. And, with the amount of games coming up and the quality he has, he's certainly going to have an important role for us, and we're happy to have him.
And just very brave, crossing that divide. Obviously got a lot of stick, as you would expect. I'm sure he's going to get even more at Carrow Road later in the season. But that does sort of speak volumes that someone has got that sort of personality and mentality to actually do that.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a part of it, and I think you also have to respect where he's coming from. We're still getting to know him, but I know he's come from a really sort of some big challenges in his background growing up in Chile, and his dream is to play in the Premier League, and he came to England with a dream of trying to play in the Premier League. And when you sort of think a little bit deeper to what that means to him, what that means to his family, probably what that means to the town that he's from, that everyone he's ever come across and who's helped him get to this point, then a player in that position is going to do whatever they think it takes, or whatever the next step is, to try and help them achieve their goal. In his case, he felt that with our interest, that was a really big step for him, a better chance to play in the Premier League, a chance to step towards that, and a chance to also improve as a player at a club that have a good record of improving players. And he's got enough sort of single-minded determination to get the best out of his career that he was willing to follow that. I think the local rivalry thing and stuff like that, of course, for English people, for people in this area, it's so significant. But when you think of someone coming from the other side of the world who's chasing the dreams, I think you can respect someone who really is going to make the decision that they think is best for them in that situation. So again, we're happy to have him. He's a good character, a strong character, and a really happy person. And we hope that this will be a success for him here, and we hope that he'll help us be successful.